With that, I do declare this meeting of the 73rd session of the Texas A&M University Student Senate officially in order on November 11th, 2020 at 7:04 p.m. Excuse me. We'll begin with a period of opening remarks. I just want to start by saying welcome to everyone who's here. I know throughout this week we've gone a little bit back and forth on the format of this meeting and how it would look and how it would be shaped. And so I want to thank everyone for your flexibility and your patience as we were figuring that out. And we're excited to have everyone here online tonight. And we're excited for a good meeting with a lot of legislation and a very awesome presentation as well from some special guests. And so with that, we'll now move into a period of opening roll call led by Speaker Pro Tempore Spur.
Howdy, Senate. Speaker Pro Tempore Spur. It is now 7:06, and that opening roll call form is open for you to fill out before 7:10.
All right. Well, as Pro Tempore Spur said, we will leave that form open until 7:10. For our guests who are in the room, the opening roll call does only apply to senators, so you do not have to fill it out if you are not a student senator. With that, though, we will move into a period of invocation in the Pledges of Allegiance, led by special guest Felipe Villada of the Catholic Students Association. Felipe, are you with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Awesome. Take it away, sir.
So I just want to say thank you for having me here to pray with y'all as we offer up this meeting to God. Before I get started, I just want to let you know that what we're doing. So I'll be praying 3 quick prayers, 2 of which will be entrusting this meeting to our Lord, and then one in which we ask Mary, the Mother of God, who remains Jesus' mother in heaven, to also help us in delivering this meeting up to God, guiding it better than we can. And so with that, I'll begin. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Felipe, thank you so much for leading us in the invocation. And if you do have the Pledges of Allegiance prepared, you may go ahead and start that as well.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Felipe, thank you so much for being with us. It's always a pleasure and an honor to have incredible students from across campus come and lead us as we begin our meetings in a thoughtful way. And so we appreciate you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. With that, we'll now move into a period of the reading of the mission statement as well as the Aggie Honor Code, read by our longest serving senator, Senator Wood.
Howdy, Senate. I wish I could be doing this from a podium in room 144, but sadly I can't. But I will continue. The mission statement says the Texas A&M University Student Senate represents all students in order to enhance the Texas A&M experience within our university and communities through research, legislation, and advocacy in accordance with the core values of our institution. The Aggie Code of Honor states an Aggie does not lie, cheat, or steal or tolerate those who do. Thanks, and gig 'em.
As always, thank you, Senator Wood. And we'll now move into a period of the singing of the spirit of Aggieland, led by Speaker Pro Tempore Spur.
Howdy, Senate. Speaker Pro Tempore Spur. It appears that YouTube is down. None of the videos are playing. Not the one we normally use and not any of the other ones. So I don't really know what's going on. But it's giving me an error message.
Do I see a motion to deviate from the agenda?
I will not sing it for you. Sorry, guys.
I would like to recognize Chair Teague with a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague Finance. I move to deviate from the agenda and skip over the singing of the Spirit of Aggieland.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing a second as well as an objection, we will move into a period of voting on whether or not to deviate from the agenda to skip over the singing of the Spirit of Aggieland. We'll vote via the buttons on Zoom, the yes and no. So all those in favor, please click yes. All those opposed, please click no. And again, this does just apply to our student senators. If you're not a student senator, please refrain from voting. And we will go ahead and close voting now by a vote of 35-3. That does pass, and we will deviate from the agenda to skip over the period of the singing of the Spirit of Aggieland. And that will take us into a period of open forum led by Speaker Pro Tempore Spur.
Howdy, Senate. Speaker Pro Tempore Spur. Once again, I apologize about the Spirit of Aggieland. It's the good old TAMU Wi-Fi. But I will be recognizing Joseph Rogers on behalf of the Core Values Subcommittee in regards to the November award nominee for excellence.
Senator Rogers, you have the floor.
Joseph Rogers, off-campus caucus. Howdy, everyone. I'm excited to be with you tonight to present the nominee that the Core Values Subcommittee chose for the month of November. Our value for this month is excellence. We had some outstanding student nominations. This month has been the most difficult in choosing a nominee thus far, which is a good thing since we are starting to receive great nominations consistently. With that said, our nominee for the Award of Excellence is Courtney Osborne. Courtney is our first nominee to be nominated by more than a single person, which in and of itself speaks to her character and drive. Courtney is a sophomore and a member of the inaugural cohort of the Aggie Achieve program. This program serves students with disabilities, but Courtney has never allowed her disability to define her or hinder her accomplishments. If you walk anywhere on campus at her side, Courtney is guaranteed to have at least one friend within a visible radius. Courtney is a competitive athlete for the Special Olympics team and competes in traditional intramural sports such as volleyball and basketball. Courtney is truly the loudest and the proudest third-generation Aggie, and she embodies this title well. As an aspiring athletic trainer, Courtney always knew that college was right for her, and she just had to wait for her opportunity to join the Aggie family. She often teaches her friends old traditions and mentors the younger Achieve students to excel in school. Additionally, Courtney is the member-at-large chair for an organization called Aggie Achieve Mates, which was created to assimilate Achieve students into their new environment with the help of other students outside of the program. She's a fearless leader with a passion for learning, spreading positivity, and striving to accomplish all of her goals with excellence. She has had to overcome so many obstacles and still works tirelessly with a smile on her face to maintain a part-time job, superb grades, and innumerable friendships. Now, I would like to read an excerpt of what the nominators sent with Courtney's nomination. Excellence is defined as excelling or being the best at something. Courtney happens to be the best at many things. For example, she has the best attitude. In addition to overcoming the challenges that every undergraduate experiences when they move away from home, she's handling all the stress while living with a disability. Regardless, Courtney has never given up on her dream of working as an athletic trainer for Texas A&M, and she uses her passion as motivation to challenge herself while on campus. She goes out of her way to make new friends whenever possible, and is always the first person to uplift others with their struggles. She has learned the life skills necessary to live on her own, such as cooking, working a part-time job at the recreation center, and has even learned how to properly navigate safely around a society during a pandemic, a skill many people have still not figured out. Moreover, she quickly became a leader in the Achieve program and uses the skill to serve as an officer in Achieve Mates and mentor the younger members of her cohort. To sum up Courtney in 3 words, she is confident, capable, and excellent. She truly excels in everything she does as a student, employee, mentor, friend, and an Aggie. I highly encourage you to consider Courtney for the Core Values Award of Excellence. From reading these excerpts and from our discussions in our subcommittee, Courtney is an absolutely outstanding applicant and perhaps the best student applicant that we have had yet. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I look forward to our future nominees. I yield my time to the floor.
Are there any questions for the presenter? Seeing none, thank you, Senator Rogers. We'll now vote on the nomination of this month's Core Values Award recipient using the same feature as voting as we have been using, the yes and no. All those in favor, please signify by selecting yes. All those opposed signify by selecting no. This voting privilege is reserved for senators alone, just to make sure that our guests are aware. We have about 5 more seconds to finalize votes. And we'll go ahead and close voting now. By a vote of 48-0, that does pass, and Courtney Osborne will be our nominee to receive the Core Values Award from the Student Senate. Thank you all for making that vote. I know this award is a very special thing, and so we're excited to host Courtney at our next meeting and present that as well. With that, Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, do we have any other open forum participants?
We do not.
Then that will conclude our period of open forum, and we will move into a period of the approval of the 10/28/20 meeting minutes. We'll do this by general consent. Do I see any objections to approving the 10/28/20 meeting minutes by general consent? Seeing none, that does pass, and those meetings have been approved. We'll now move into a period of special presentation on student fee caps, led by Dr. Martha Danenbaum of the Student Health Services and Mr. Bill Bielmalowitz of the University Center and Special Events. Thank you all so much for being with us here tonight. You do have the floor.
Great. Thank you very much. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to come before this group again. I think it's been about 2 years since I've had the pleasure of seeing you all. And here tonight, basically for the same thing we were here for the last time, and that was trying to get the support for the fee cap increase for student health services. Next slide, please. So I just want a reminder of our mission and vision. Many people think, oh, healthcare and what you're doing is just taking care of the usual things that our college population has over the course of their time in school. But really, we exist to support your academic mission and to develop our students so that they move on from Aggie land and actually are healthy, but also are good consumers of healthcare. And of course, we want to be your first choice in healthcare. And we strive to be nationally recognized, and I would say we are a nationally recognized leader in college health. Next slide, please. So this is a reminder, you know, we are part of the Division of Student Affairs, and we have the goals within the division. Next slide, please. We really focus on goals 2 and 4. As a student health center, we're here to contribute to the student success by keeping them well and also offering opportunities for students to be successful in the healthcare world. But our biggest thing is probably supporting the student well-being. And obviously a very important thing during our time of COVID that we're dealing with at this point. Next slide, please. This is an overview of the facts that we've been having to deal with. So I think you all know this, and I know you have some legislation pending on this tonight, but our fee cap is legislatively controlled. Our fee cap is $75. It has been for 24 years, and we are at that cap and have been for several years. We made a run at this in the 86th legislative session in 2019, and we got actually the farthest we had ever gotten before. It went through the House, but didn't make it through the Senate. As I mentioned, the last time our fee cap was changed was 24 years. That was longer ago than many of you in your age. And at that time, the fee cap went to $50. So it was $50, went up to $75. And if you look at the facts around healthcare and the inflation and increasing costs, over in Texas, the cost of healthcare has averaged close to 5% annually in increase over the period of time we have mentioned on the slide. In the 10-year period of time between 2008 and 2018, the health fee went up less than 1% per year. Again, some years it didn't change at all. In other years, it may have gone up in the 2.5% range. But clearly, that shows that we keep our costs down for our students. And why do we need a health fee increase? There's a lot of reasons, but most of it is that in order for us to continue to provide the current level of service and then subsequently grow our services with our expanding student population, we need that funding support there to support the basic services. And in this time of COVID, as many of you know, it's been a very difficult financial time for the campus across the board. So maintaining financial stability is very important as well. Increasing the cost of care to the student is going to create some inequities, especially for those without health insurance or the ability to pay for care. And if we can't increase the fee to support the general access to care for students, then those costs are going to have to be passed on to the individual student users. Next slide, please. So here's our request. Next slide. We would like to see that cap go to $200, and that's a big jump. And a lot of people say, "What? 75 to 200?" Remember, this is just a cap. It allows us options. Right now, that $75 per student per semester health fee funds about 60% of our budget. Several years ago, it was funding about 75%, and then it went down to about 70%, and now it is progressively gotten lower in what it's supporting. So that other 40%, we have to get that from the students. We recently had to increase the cost of our medical visits to $15. 10 years ago, there was no charge for those. But without that fee support, we have to be able to continue to fund the care. And as we increase those costs, it becomes increasingly difficult for students. You're going to have to make choices. Where am I going to spend my $15? Am I going to go buy groceries, or am I going to access healthcare? If we have the flexibility to increase the student health fee, this is going to help us keep the cost of care affordable across all students. So what we need from Student Senate is we need your support with the legislature. If we can get the cap increased, it is going to allow us to address some of the issues that are very specific to our facility, which is pushing 50 years old, and it was not designed for what it's being used for now. It also was designed for a student population of about 36,000, so clearly we're well above that. Ideally, we'd love to see a new comprehensive healthcare facility for our campus. One benefit of the pandemic is it has bought us a little bit of time, because we now have telemedicine and we have other options that help us live in this facility, but that's not going to last forever. And so students need to have options of how they fund this healthcare across campus. Next slide, please. So you got this. I mean, you've gotten this semester. Y'all have done an amazing job in managing the health issues related to the pandemic. And so we need your support at this point so we can continue to provide the level of service that Aggies need and that Aggies deserve. Thank you. Are we doing questions now, or are we going to do them later?
Absolutely. I don't know, Mr. Belmowitz, I don't know if you had anything to add to the presentation, or if you'd like to present now or after questions for Dr. Danbaum.
Oh yeah, I think we'll go ahead and you might hear, we're going to try not to be repetitive with what Martha said, but we too appreciate getting the opportunity to visit with you this evening to talk about the fee cap. We also have a infographic that if we could put that on the screen, that would be good.
Yes, sir.
With me, Judy Mars, she and her staff actually put this document together from some research they have been doing for the last few days. So we're going to try to get through this quickly and try not to repeat what Martha said. Let you know a little bit about who we are, what we do, where our operating expenses or operating fees come from, and let you know the facilities supported by this fee. They are the John Coldus Building, Rudder Theater Complex, Rudder Tower, the Memorial Student Center, and that's about 722,000 square feet of space. Let you know the use of that space for students. In FY18, about 13,000 events, student-led events took place in that space. In FY19, about 12,000. And with the COVID issues now, that number has dropped significantly. At this point, I think I'm going to let Judy tell you about the student fee history of ours. Go.
Thank you so much, guys, for being here and allowing us an opportunity to speak to you. So we just started back at 1992, and as you can see, the fee cap at that time was $40. And we were, between that 9-year period, we went from $24 to $40. And then with the renovation of the MSC, which was $128 million, in 2009, we were able to raise it to $100. With that, as you can see from our narrative underneath it, basically what happened is we still stayed at the $40 for the operating budget, and then the $60 additional dollars continues to pay towards the debt service of the renovation of the Memorial Student Center. And so essentially from 2001 to 2020, we still continue to operate on a $40 portion of that fee cap. Obviously, there's been inflation, and then you can also look at the reported number of students that are on campus, and you can see the growth there. And so one of the things that we have to consider is as time goes on, we're paying the debt service, but we continue to operate with that $40. And so the increase allows us to address other needs. This fee also contributes to those other facilities as well. And so the fee cap increase from 2009 really only addresses the Memorial Student Center.
Going down on the page, some of the highlighted projects that have taken place within these facilities are in FY18, the $1.6 million for the exhibit hall flooring. That was the only piece of that we could do with the amount of time we had in that year. The flag room furniture and 12th man hall furniture, the student activities carpet. In FY19, almost $1 million for MSC first floor dining furniture. We finished the floor in Rudder Theater Complex and upgraded the orchestra pit and bought seating for Rudder Tower. In FY20, we did the MSC lower level furniture and flooring. One of the boilers, one of the reasons for this fee increase, the equipment in the MSC and these other facilities are getting older and are going to need to be replaced. One of the boilers went out then. And then the Department of Multicultural Services furniture we provided for them. As I'm sure you all know, the MSC, Rudder Tower, All Faith Chapel, and Rudder Theater Complex, all of the facilities that were large enough to house classes are doing that as we speak. And we're also providing support at other venues on campus that our staff have become experts in. The loss in revenue due to COVID-19 is about $2.2 million that we don't generate because of the COVID-19 issues. Just a point that if the fee cap increase were to pass, the soonest we could increase would be August of 2021 to ask for it, and the increase wouldn't take place until September of 2022.
And that would be students who were not on the tuition.
And with that said, I think we're both here to answer questions that you guys might have. Fire away.
Thank you all so much for taking the time to present. Do you have any questions for any of our presenters tonight? And if so, remember that raised hand tool can be utilized. Senator Trosclair.
Howdy, Senator Trosclair, On Campus Caucus. I'm a little slightly confused, and maybe this is on my end, between the two presentations. The first one focused only on the student health fee cap, and the second one focused on the student fee cap that's a separate entity. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, so both of us have separate fees, and you probably know this, that there are three different entities that have the separate fees: the Student Health Center, the University Center Complex, and then the Rec Center. And so Billy and I both have this cap on our fee, and we're both at that. In order for us to get any kind of a fee increase from students, you all have to vote on anything that's more than a 10% increase. So even, if we are able to get $200 as our cap, I can't go to $200 without students telling me I could do that. I really can't go more than $7.50 higher than what I am right now without students saying, yes, we agree that that is something our students need. So yes, these are two different fees. We're just both in the same situation, that we're at the fee cap. Does that help?
That's absolutely correct.
Yes, ma'am. Can we get copies of these PowerPoint slides as well for both presentations?
Absolutely. You have them.
Senator Smith.
Thank you. Dr. Dannenbaum, thank you for coming and presenting with us. I was wondering if you have on hand the bill number from the 86th legislature.
There we go. You think I would know that. Tom Reber, do you know? It seems like it was like House Bill 3266, something like that.
Tried to search them, but I don't know what keyword I should be looking for. I look for student and healthcare, but
I'll look it up and put it in the chat room.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Chair Ahmed.
Hi, my name is Matt Ahmed. I'm the Diversity Inclusion Chair. I just want to thank you both for coming to speak to us today and giving us that information. So I don't know if I missed this. This is why I'm kind of asking for clarification regarding the USEN fee. I saw that y'all said it was $40. And so are you guys asking for it to increase to $100, or it's at $100? And what's like the fee cap increase y'all wanted it to reach?
The request for both of us is ours is to increase from 100 to 200. We are maxed out at 100, but yet get only $40 of that fee for operations and maintenance, and the other 60 goes toward the debt service for the renovation of the MSC.
Okay, thank you.
And Senator Elbel.
Howdy, Senator Elbel, Off-Campus Caucus. This is for either one of you. What challenges do you see taking place in the legislative session coming up that would hinder the student caps from increasing?
Well, I can start with that. I think the economic situation of the state right now is really going to impact much of what the legislative bodies are going to be interested in doing that has anything to do with increasing amounts of money they might be asking for from their constituents, so from students, from their families. And I think the key is that we're not asking for more money. We're cap on a fee. It's almost like it's housekeeping, in that we've gone 24 years where we've gone from 50 to 75. And the USEN is a similar situation. And now we don't have any options anymore. So my only option, and somewhat Bill's only option as well, is pass those costs on to the population. And we do that at some level, and we do get revenue from users. But part of our mission is to support all students, not just students who have money. And so I think one of the biggest challenges is going to be when they hear fee, they don't go to the next word, which is cap. We're just needing a raised fee cap. And Bill, do you have anything to add?
Yes, totally agree with that. And without the cap it's going to have to decrease the use of space by students and go more toward entities that pay larger rental fees for our space, if you will. So we want to keep the use of the space for students as absolutely low as we can. We also go out and our services are sought out by other entities on campus. For example, we do to generate revenue, we do a lot for athletics. We do a lot of work at the ILSB. We do a lot of work for the College of Agriculture. We do all of the events at the equine complex. So we are out there trying to generate revenue, and we do a really good job of that, except with the COVID situation, there are no events to support.
Chair Jeffress.
Chair Jarvis, Acting Affairs. Howdy, y'all. Thank you for coming. Could one of the presenters explain what the use and fee increase would be used for?
I would say first and foremost to keep the fees for the students down for the use of the space. The MSc was finished in 2012, and there are some pretty large projects that need to be taken care of pretty soon. We had Bethencourt Ballroom to be replace the carpet, and over this coming holiday break, I think, and put that off. We put off several projects because we were afraid of revenue issues, that we shouldn't go into the reserves too soon without making sure we really need to make those upgrades. But in the coming years, we're going to need to spend some money, whether it's on technology, furnishings, carpet, what have you. Yes, and Judy has something also.
Also, I just wanted to say that one of the things that we try to do is this feeds our operation, and we 100% understand that. We were getting a lot of feedback from the student body about the dining options in the Memorial Student Center. I don't know, since COVID-19, if any of you have had an opportunity to come into the Memorial Student Center and spend some time in here, but we have since added a Chick-fil-A and a Jason's Deli, as well as a personalized pizza experience. And then we also have a Tex-Mex experience there. So the university's food contract, Chartwell's, they wanted to redo the dining options, but they wanted to use their own concepts. We partnered with a communications professor here on campus, and we surveyed over 2,000 students as a pushback, because we were like, they're paying this fee, this is their facility, this is their building, and they should get what they want. And so through that data, we were able to push through and to get some of those nationally recognized brands. And so that's some of the things that we're trying to do. We actually partnered with the university and Chartwell's and the department. We were responsible for $1.5 million of, adding in those dining options. So that's some of the things that we do. We want to make sure that your fee is respected and that your voices are heard. And if we hadn't done that surveying, I don't know what would have happened. And so we're really excited and proud that that happened, and we continue to try to work towards those kind of partnerships to make sure that all of our facilities represent what our current student body needs and wants.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, that is all of the time that we have for question and answer tonight, so we will go ahead and wrap up that period of question and answer. If you do have any further questions, Dr. Danenbaum has graciously shared her contact information in the chat, so be sure to write that down and shoot her an email at any point. With that, though, I do want to say a special thank you to Dr. Danenbaum and Mr. Blowitz, as well as all those who contributed to the presentation tonight. I know it's always a pleasure and an honor to be able to hear from you guys, and it's always fantastic to be presented with such good information. So thanks for being with us.
Thank you for your time. We really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you all. And so with that, we will now move into a period of unfinished business, beginning with the second reading of SA 7302, the Caucus Leader Reformation Act. Senator Tillis, I believe, is reading tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Tillis, Engineering Caucus, would you please unmute Chair Rodriguez?
Howdy guys, Chair Rodriguez, Constituency Affairs. So tonight we're bringing back the legislation SA 73, the Caucus Leader Reformation Act, an act to reform the responsibilities of caucus leaders. We previously sent it to the Rules and Regulations Committee. So just kind of to reiterate what the goal of this resolution, it's to outline the responsibilities and duties of caucus leaders in order to have a more format for caucus leaders to follow in the years to come. We believe that it's valuable because it's going to be something that's going to be implemented in the future. And so we're going to get straight into the reading. Senator Tillis, do you want to start?
Yep, and before we begin, I'd just like to say that we're going to do a complete read-through of the act, and then afterwards I'll be doing a presentation, like going bullet by bullet for every change we made to kind of explain what the rationale was before we yield to questions. So, whereas 1, the responsibilities and duties of caucus leaders have not been clearly outlined and upheld in years past, and
whereas 2, we believe that caucus leaders can be valuable in improving relations between the student body and their respective caucus if their positions and duties become more clear, and
therefore, let it be enacted 1, that Title III SGAC Chapter 001, Article 3, Section 2, Subsection 11, Subsection 2 be removed in its entirety.
And therefore, let it be enacted 2, Title III, Chapter 001, Article 3, Section 3, be amended as follows. Caucus leaders will preside over the individual caucus that they belong. 2, the caucus leader shall be responsible for meeting with or facilitating meetings between student organizations and their SGA Student Senate Caucus. So it reads, caucus leader shall preside over the individual caucus that they belong. The caucus leader shall be responsible for meeting with or facilitating meetings between student organizations and their SGA Student Senate Caucus. 3, implement a constituent letter that is sent out the 11th week of class and shall contain information pertaining to relevant legislation passed by Student Senate, current projects being worked on by the caucus, and an attached form allowing feedback and questions from constituents. 4, meet with their respective dean, associated council, or affiliated constituent organizations at least twice a semester. 5, meet with their respective Senate caucuses at least twice a semester, hosting caucus meetings, discussing informational updates, and allowing for discussion and/or presentations of projects directly impacting the caucus and/or its constituents being pursued by members of the caucus. 6, take attendance in accordance with each caucus meeting, and therefore let it be accounted for as an official absence. If each senator does not attend a caucus meeting at least once a semester, then the senator will be accrued 1 absence as a result. The type of absence will be determined by the Constituency Affairs Chair.
And let it be further enacted 3, Title III, Chapter 001, Article 10, Section 1 be amended as follows. Section 1, leadership elections will be changed, as well as adding subpoint B, the caucus leaders of Student Senate shall be elected in the following format. Caucus leaders must be elected within 2 general meetings following the election of all chair positions and may be chosen before or after the final meeting of the outgoing Senate session. 2, 1 caucus leader shall be elected from each of the 13 caucuses. 3, prior to the election, a 10-minute recess to allow an informal meeting of the caucus leaders shall be ordered by the Speaker. 4, during this meeting, the caucuses shall decide on a caucus leader. 5, all caucus members interested in running for the caucus leader position shall state their intention to run. 6, if multiple caucus members state their intent to run, the caucus leader will be elected by the members of their caucus by a simple majority vote using ranked voting, with votes counted by a non-candidate caucus member. If there's a disagreement during the vote, vote counting process, the Speaker Pro Tempore will count all the votes. In the event of a tie, the two frontrunners will be elected by the Senate body. So that it reads, Section 1, Leadership Elections. The officers of the Student Senate will be elected at the first new meeting of the incoming session according to the following format. 1, candidates for Speaker, Speaker Pro Tempore, and Rules and Regulations Chair must have served in a prior session of Senate. If no candidate meets the above requirements, chooses to run for the above offices, then any current member of Senate may run for those offices. 3, nominations shall be accepted from the floor. 4, candidates for all officer positions must be members of the session in which they seek election. 5, each candidate will have 10 minutes to speak, and each speaking period will be followed by a 5-minute question and answer session. 6, each candidate is allowed 1 character speaker on their behalf who may speak for a maximum of 5 additional minutes. 7, if only 1 person is nominated for an office, they will have 5 minutes to speak, and they may be allot any by that time to 1 character speaker. 8, a period of debate can be requested by any member of the Senate immediately before voting. 9, a ballot vote will be used if at least 1 senator requests it. 10, a candidate must receive a majority of the vote to be elected. 11, if in the first vote no candidate receives a majority of the vote, a runoff shall occur between the 2 candidates with the most votes. 12, if a tie occurs for either of the runoff positions, a vote must be recast to break that tie before the runoff can take place. 13, the candidates in the runoff do not get any more time to speak, but debate may be restarted. 14, if a position is not filled after another election following this format will take place at the next regularly scheduled Senate meeting. 15, a motion to adjourn will be out of order during the meeting until the Speaker, Speaker Pro Tempore, and Rules and Regulations chairs are elected. And B, we just read that off previously. And
Yes. And then I can take over. Let it be further enacted for Title 3, Chapter 001, Article 3, Section 3 be amended as follows and enacted following closing roll call of the final General Assembly of the 73rd session of Student Senate. 11, caucus leaders shall preside over the individual caucus that they belong. The caucus leader shall be responsible for meeting with or facilitating meetings between student organizations and their SGA Student Senate caucus. 3, implement a constituent letter that is sent out the 11th week of class and shall contain information pertaining to relevant legislation passed by Student Senate, current projects being worked on by the caucus, and an attached form allowing feedback and questions from constituents. 4, meet with the respective dean, associated council, or affiliated constituents and organizations at least twice a semester. 5, meet with the respective Senate caucus at least once a semester, hosting caucus meetings, discussing informational updates, and allowing for discussion and presentations. 6, take attendance in accordance with each caucus meeting, and therefore let it be accounted for as an official absence if each senator does not attend a caucus meeting at least once a semester. Then the senator will accrue 1 absence as a result. The type of absence will be determined by the Constituency Affairs Chair. And adding on attend the fall and spring monthly caucus leader meetings as organized by the Constituency Affairs Chair. The meetings will count for attendance and will be decided on by the Constituency Affairs Chair. And so we just read through that. And
let it be further enacted 5, Title 3, Chapter 001, continuing on the article, be removed, striking subpoint subpoint 1, caucus leader selection. A, the caucus leaders shall be elected immediately within 2 general meetings following the election of the last committee chair's election. B, prior to the election, a 10-minute recess to allow an overall meeting of the caucus leaders shall be ordered by the Speaker. 1, during this meeting, the caucus leaders shall decide on a caucus leader. 2, if there is a dispute within one of these caucuses, the caucus shall vote on a caucus leader using a ballot system. 3, if a vote is required, only the senators within their respective caucus may vote for their respective caucus leader. In the occurrence of a tie vote, the Speaker shall decide the caucus leader. Each caucus will elect only 1 caucus leader. D, caucus leaders who are members of a caucus with 3 or more members will automatically be assigned to the Constituency Affairs Committee. E, caucus leaders will provide caucus reports to the Constituency Affairs Chair prior to each General Assembly Senate meeting, where the chair will inform the body of the committee's reports. And
therefore let it be enacted 6, a copy of this bill be sent to Megan Hine, the Rules and Regulations Chair.
All right, now we will move on into a period of presentation for all the individual changes we are making. So as a brief outline, there are going to be two, I guess, portions of this act. One will take place immediately after the passage of this act, that will be, I guess, enacted for the remainder of the 73rd session. And the second half will be only enacted starting at the beginning of the 74th session or end of the 73rd session. So for changes that we are implementing following the passage of this act immediately in the 73rd session, we will be striking the first caucus leader responsibilities subsection that basically detail what caucus or what organizations the caucus leaders must keep relations with on a near biweekly basis. And we did not think that this was something that was relevant or needed anymore, and we've amended this down below. So we're striking that each caucus leader must be with one of these organizations based on which caucus leader position they hold. Going down, we are striking the election process for caucus leaders and completely formatting it. Beforehand, the caucus leaders had to be elected before joint session. I believe that was the rule, and caucus leaders had to serve on the Constituency Affairs Committee. So we have completely reformatted the process of being elected, the timeline of which caucus leaders should be elected, and their responsibilities. These were stricken here, and were replaced with responsibilities where the election process will be further described later on in the piece of legislation. But for now, let it be firm at the two, we are removing the election process and replacing it with the responsibilities that caucus leaders must have for the remainder of this session. So these responsibilities going forward in the spring will be: one, that a constituent letter will be implemented and sent out the 11th week of classes, containing any information that's relevant to legislation that's passed on behalf of Student Senate, any work that the caucus leader has done on behalf of their college or constituency. As far as the 11th week, we thought that this was just a good time right before the final stretch of tests and finals, but also late enough so that enough work and enough legislation could be passed to give an adequate update to the student body. This will be sent out specifically to their constituents and no other people. In point 4 here, we instead of meeting with the affiliated organization to their caucus bi-weekly before each Senate meeting, we are making it so that caucus leaders need to meet with either their dean of college or associate dean, an associated council. So for the College of Engineering, the associated council will be the Student Engineers Caucus Council, for example. Or any affiliated constituent organization. So any organization related to a college or related to a constituency. And a combination of one of these three actions should be done twice a semester, at least twice a semester. Senate caucus leaders must organize a Senate or a caucus meeting at least twice a semester. So this is a meeting of the caucus leader and all members of that caucus body. And so this will take place twice a semester. For all the members of the caucus, they must be required to attend at least one of those meetings, not both, but one. And absence policies will be counted if they do not attend either one of those. So that's going to be implemented immediately in the spring session. And then in subpoint 6, caucus leaders will take attendance for these meetings, like I had said before, so that any senators that don't attend either caucus meeting will be counted as, or will be given an absence for that. Down in further noted 3, we are adding a subpoint B for elections, and we are renaming the section 1 to leadership elections instead of officer elections to encompass caucus leaders as well. So the caucus leaders will be elected with the following format. Caucus leaders now must be elected, as we had said, I guess to preface, as we said above, the previous process for electing caucus leaders has been struck completely. And so this is the subpoint that replaces that process for election. So caucus leaders now must be elected within 2 general meetings following the election of all chair positions. So beforehand, this had to be done before joint session, but now all chair elections can proceed before caucus leaders are chosen, to give people who didn't get a chair position and are still interested in pursuing a leadership opportunity a chance to run for one of those positions. And we're also giving 2 general meetings after the election of all chair positions to give some flexibility for when caucus leaders can be elected in case the Senate meeting has a particularly large amount of legislation or responsibilities to do during that meeting. One caucus leader will still be elected from each of the 13 caucuses that you run in during elections. Prior to this election, a 10-minute recess will be called to allow for the meeting of each individual caucus to decide amongst themselves who will be elected. And during this process, each caucus leader or each person interested in the position will state their intent to run and can give a presentation or whatever else to convince the rest of the members of the caucus to vote for that individual. And this is the biggest change for the actual voting process, is that if multiple caucus members state their intent to run for the position, then a simple majority vote will suffice to elect them. However, we will be using a ranked voting system with the votes counted by a non-candidate caucus member. So just any other member that isn't running will count the votes in a ranked voting fashion. I can go further into what ranked voting is in the question and answer if you would like. But, and then if there's any disagreements about how the votes were counted, then the Speaker Pro Tempore will count the votes. And if there is a split tie, then the 2 front runners will be chosen by everyone after all the caucus leaders are elected, will be chosen by the Senate body as a whole, instead of the Speaker as it was previously. And then finally, in Let Up Be Enacted 4, these are changes that will take place after the end of this session. So starting in the 74th session, everything I've read so far is being amended for the 73rd session. And so constituency affairs, or excuse me, so in Let It Be Enacted 5, I'm going to skip around a little bit. At the very, it's the last, or the second to last, Let It Be Further Enacted. Basically, we struck out a part that says that caucus leaders must serve on constituency affairs. And so what that does is it opens up constituency affairs so that anyone can serve on constituency affairs. And so caucus leaders will no longer have to serve on constituency affairs. They can serve on any committee they so desire, and any senator can serve on constituency affairs if they preference it and are chosen to serve on it. And so therefore, we still wanted caucus leaders to continue meeting and discussing on the things that they're working on for the respective colleges. So we are implementing a monthly caucus leader meeting of all the caucus leaders that will be organized by the constituency affairs chair still, but will not directly impact in any way the constituency affairs meeting. So that will take place following the 73rd session because the way it works is that right now constituency affairs is composed of all the caucus leaders, so it's not really a necessary change for this session. And those are all the changes we have made, and we now yield to questions.
Presenters are open for questions. Are there any questions at this time? Senator Wood.
Senator Wood, College Engineering. 2 questions. One, that was really excessive. Do you feel like it needs to be that excessive for college or for caucus leaders?
I would actually say that we are drastically cutting down the responsibilities the caucus leaders currently have. As the rules state right now, caucus leaders should be meeting bi-weekly with like their affiliated organization. So like for an example, as the engineering caucus leader, I would need to meet with the SEC leadership team every other week and give an update to the constituency affairs chair. But I guess in general, I think that caucus leaders have a lot of potential in them, even if some of these responsibilities aren't being met right now. And I think that if the caucus leaders representing SGA and Senate as a whole can really form the different colleges around campus, I see it as a really beneficial thing. I think that giving the very defined and laid out responsibilities best, I guess, would move to accomplish these goals.
Perfect. Permission to follow up, Mr. Speaker.
Granted.
So if that is the ruling stating right now, Clarissa, as the Constituency Affairs chair, are those rules being followed? And if they aren't, then why are caucus leaders not being held to that standard? If that's the current ruling as of now.
Yeah, so right now, I guess Kieran and I were able to actually dig into the code and find these discrepancies that we didn't know were supposed to be held by caucus leaders. So that's why we took the initiative to go ahead and reform so we could implement these policies the 73rd session and then hold all the caucus leaders up to these new initiatives that we're hoping to bring and get passed through the floor tonight.
Thanks.
Speaker Pro Tempore Spur.
Howdy, Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, Off-Campus Caucus. My question is to the presenters. Are you aware that with the caucus leader elections, that if somebody is sworn in, it was like chooses to be a caucus leader, is elected by their caucus, and they still want to run for a chair position, they can resign the caucus leader position if they do win that chair position, and that has been done in this session.
Yes, so we were aware of that, but we just wanted to create a little more leeway just in case, there's someone who did want to be a chair, but then instead wanted to be a caucus leader. So it's just more of a format in order to have that process be a little bit better on the constituency affairs side.
Permission to follow up?
Granted.
So is this a way for people that are not getting the chair position they want to then run for a caucus leader position?
No, this is just mainly a way in order, just in case they want to be a caucus leader instead of a chair, they have more of an option instead of just kind of having that one option of being a chair.
Senator Chunga Pizarro.
Senator Chunga Pizarro, Off-Campus Caucus. I have a question. So who's currently caucus leaders are doing their jobs?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I think you broke up there a little bit.
Okay, can I ask it again?
Yes, go ahead.
My question was, who is in charge of overlooking that caucus leaders are doing their jobs?
So each caucus leader is held up to their own, responsibility of being able to fulfill their duties. For me, I just ask for them to send me in updates. I don't like to dictate over what they're doing, what they're not doing. But I do make sure that they are meeting with, respective people that they're supposed to be, just like we reformat it in the code so that they are obligated to meet with respective leaders that are in the caucus of their college.
With a minute and a half remaining in question and answer, Senator Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Smith, College of Ag and Life Sciences Caucus. My question is for the presenters.
I'm going to have to go ahead and pause you for just a second. Chair Ahmed, your motion.
Howdy, Chair Ahmed, Diversity and Inclusion Chair, Off-Campus Caucus. I motion to extend the question and answer session by 2 minutes.
So unfortunately, the motion is out of order as Senator Smith was in the process of asking the question. But after the next question finishes, before the next speaker is recognized, if you want to remake that motion, that's the time when that could be made. Senator Smith, please proceed with your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I already introduced myself, but I will again. Senator Smith, College of Ag and Life Sciences Caucus. My question is for the presenters. My caucus is made up of 4 senators. I am the only senator in my caucus who is not a committee chair. Are you guys open to doing anything in the future or possibly in this legislation to give an opt-out feature to anyone in my position who did not want to be a caucus leader, but who was forced to?
I would say yes, we are open to that. Like as you saw in these legislation, there's not currently, I guess, any enforcement with the changes made to the 73rd session specifically. it's basically going to be used as a template for the next constituency affairs chair and next caucus leaders upon election of the 74th session to, I guess, give a kind of a precedent for the outline of their responsibilities.
Thank you.
I would now like to recognize Chair Ahmed with the motion.
Howdy, Chair Ahmed, Diversity and Inclusion, Off-Campus Caucus. I move to extend the period of Q&A by 2 minutes.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds, we will move by general consent to extend the period of question and answer by 2 minutes. Do I see any objections to general consent? Seeing none, that does pass. And Chair Ahmed, I do believe you are also in line to ask a question.
Yep, so howdy again, Chair Ahmed, Diversity Inclusion Off-Campus Caucus. So my question is, a lot of this is geared to the colleges. You know, you said meeting with their deans, with their respective organizations, but we do have like our off-campus residency and our on-campus residency, which are pretty large and are not affiliated with like a college. I do think like for off-campus, they can meet with like the RHAs, but particularly for off-campus and whoever that caucus leader may be, who would their respective organizations, they don't necessarily have a dean, I guess, what would you do for specifically that role? Because it's not necessarily college related or has like a campus organization.
Yeah.
Do you want to take that, Kieran?
Sure.
Cool.
Thank you for your question, Chair Ahmed. We think that for off-campus specifically, any organization would apply really, because off-campus students obviously represent people across all organizations on campus.
And with 45 seconds remaining, Senator Harlan.
Senator Harlan, Off-Campus Caucus. I'm just a little confused as what to the purpose of this act is if we could simply have an accountability system that could keep these caucus leaders accountable to doing what they're supposed to do.
Well, one, this is changing what the current responsibilities of the caucus leaders are. It's also updating the election process for caucus leaders. So there's like two, I guess, big changes to this.
Is the purpose of this primarily to have a buffer for people who don't want?
Fortunately, Senator Harlan, you did not ask for a follow-up question, so you are out of order. And I would like to recognize Senator Spur with the motion. Pro Tempore Spur, excuse me.
Howdy, Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, Off-Campus Caucus. I motion to extend the question and answer period by 2 more minutes.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds, we will move by general consent to extend the period of question and answer by 2 minutes. Do I see any objections to general consent? Seeing none, that does pass. Pro Tempore Spur, I do believe you were next in line with a question from the chat.
Howdy, Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, Off-Campus Caucus. My question was kind of following up from Senator Chunga Pizarro's question. Is it not the responsibility of the Constituency Affairs Chair to preside over the caucus leaders and their roles and responsibilities and to keep them in check?
Yes, and I meet with them every week. I make sure that they're on top of their tasks. This is just more of a format in order to ensure that they have a more guided outline of what they should be accomplishing on their day-to-day basis. I know Kieran, he came up to me one day and was like, I know caucus leaders should be doing this, this, and this, and we're doing that, but we want to make sure that we have more of an outline of what we should exactly be performing to. And so for me, I'm making sure that they're accomplishing everything that they should, but I feel like this is a more formatted guideline for a more detailed structure of what they should be able to fulfill as caucus leaders.
And with a minute remaining, Senator Steglick.
Senator Steglick, Off-Campus Caucus. My question for the presenters is kind of what is the purpose of the Constituency Affairs Committee if those who are and bringing forth constituency ideas are not being required to be on the committee?
So I would say, thank you for your question, Senator Stigler. I would say right now, there have been a lot of, like, I guess, reformations to the Constituency Affairs Chair as of recent. One is the monthly Ag Input Survey that is put out on behalf of the student body. And I would say that, like, in general, it's just any general concerns of constituents of any type in general. I would say those are two major responsibilities. I think the caucus leaders.
Is the time in Q&A, if you would please finish that last sentence.
And so, yeah, I would say those are the responsibilities of the Constituency Affairs Chair as of now. Thank you.
With that, I do know there are still questions, but that is all the time. Do I see any motions before we move on? Pro Tempore Spur.
Howdy, Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, Off-Campus Caucus. I motion to extend the period of question and answer by 2 more minutes.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing both a second as well as objections, we will now vote on whether or not to extend the period of question for 2 minutes, utilizing the yes/no tool. All those in favor of extending, please signify by clicking yes, and all those opposed signify by clicking no. And we'll have 5 more seconds to finalize any votes. And we're going to go ahead and cut it there by a vote of 22 to 21. That does pass, and we will add 2 minutes to the period of question and answer. Senator Trosclair, I believe you're next in line.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Chair Hine, Rules and Regulations. The motion to limit or extend debate actually requires a 2/3 vote. Therefore, the motion fails.
The chair is out of order. That is true, and so that does fail. We will conclude the period of question and answer there. With that, we'll move into a period of debate, beginning with debate against. Do I see any debate against at this time? Senator Wood, you have the floor.
Senator Wood, College Engineering. I'm debating against this because, as stated, they said there's already similar writing in the code as is. So now that the chair has been made aware that this is in the code, he can hold the caucus leaders accountable to what they're supposed to do as of now. And I also believe that it's just too extensive for a caucus leader at this point. I yield my time to Chair Teague.
Chair Teague.
Howdy, Chair Teague. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. While I think that maybe some reformation is in order, if we can enforce the rules that we already have on the books, I fail to see how adding another 10 responsibilities or 20 responsibilities will accomplish anything until we can have some enforcement of the rules. I think this is how we have a code that is so incredibly long and so ineffective.
We have the debate against. We'll now move into a period of debate for. Do I see any debate for this resolution? Senator Tillis.
Senator Tillis, Engineering Caucus. To go back on Chair Teague's point, I would say that the responsibilities right now are quite extensive in terms of caucus leaders. This is something that we were made aware of as we were going through the code. They require biweekly meetings of caucus leaders with their affiliated. Most councils only meet biweekly or even less than that. So I would say this is an impossible task for caucus leaders as it is. This bill has been well thought through. I would say that I've spent my time as engineer caucus leader this semester going through and seeing what responsibilities are reasonable to ask for caucus leaders to perform and cutting those down and talking to many chairs about these changes. And so I would say that this has been well researched and well documented to see what is reasonable for caucus leaders to do so that these responsibilities can be adequately enforced in a fair manner to everyone. I yield my time to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to, and that will conclude the first period of debate, first round of debate, excuse me. We'll now move into the second round of debate, beginning with debate against. Senator Lucas, you have the floor.
Senator Lucas, College of Education. I will be voting against this piece of legislation. I do not see how we can be expected to completely reform something when we cannot even get our act together as it is. I think we need to reevaluate the responsibilities that we have now and making sure that we are all being held accountable and that we are all on the same page and there is effective communication before we move forward with something this extensive. And with that, I yield my time to Senator Smith.
Senator Lucas, you do still have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I think she yielded to me. I wasn't
I'm
able
sorry,
to
I thought I yielded to Senator Smith.
I apologize. The Zoom there must have cut out.
No, you're fine. My Wi-Fi is horrible.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Smith, College of Agriculture and Life Sciences Caucus. I want to first thank Senator Tillis for writing this extensive legislation. I think it's a really good piece. It was well thought out. I'm afraid it's a bit rushed. I think we might need to do a little bit of soul searching with ourselves in the Constituency Affairs Committee before it's time to do something like this. I agree with some of the sentiments that have been already spoken. That
Smith, I will have to stop you as that is time, and I did add extra time to account for the pause we had there.
Thank you.
We'll now move into a period of debate for. Do I see any debate for? Chair Rodriguez, you have the floor.
Howdy, guys. Chair Rodriguez, Constituency Affairs. One of the biggest things that we wanted to highlight in this Reformation Act was to give people the opportunity to opt out of CA if they didn't necessarily want to be in CA. Like mentioned before, Senator Smith had said that he was not given the option to possibly be in, say, academic affairs if that was his first choice, and he was kind of thrown into CA. So one of the biggest things that we wanted to highlight in this new act was to ensure that senators did have the option to serve in another committee that would be more fit for the responsibilities that they would love to be able to uphold. Now, I do understand this is a lot to ask for caucus leader, but one of the biggest things that we wanted to highlight was they can also be in other, respective committees if that's not their first choice. So when looking at this resolution or act, I would say that that's one of the biggest things that we wanted to highlight, and we hope you guys do take consideration into this. And I yield my time to Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Teague.
Please keep your remarks to one sentence as that is time.
Yes, sir. Chair Teague, Finance. I think we've already established how everybody feels on this act. Therefore, I move the previous question.
A motion to move the previous question has been made. Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds, we will move to a period of voting. And Chair Hine, check me just to make sure I'm right here. Do we move into a period of debate when asking to move the previous question?
Chair Hine, Rules and Regulations, no. The previous question is undebatable and unamendable.
Perfect. So with that, we have seen multiple seconds. We'll now move into a period of voting on whether or not to move the previous question and proceed to voting on this piece of legislation. All those in favor, please signify by selecting yes, and all those opposed, please signify by selecting no. We'll have 5 seconds more to finalize votes. We'll go ahead and close voting by a vote of 29-5. That does pass, and the previous question has been moved. And we'll now move into a period of voting on this resolution as a whole, led by Speaker Pro Tempore Spur.
Howdy, Senate Speaker Pro Tempore Spur. It is 8:26 p.m. You will have until 8:29 to vote. This is SA 7302, and that form is now open and in the chat. All right, y'all, it is 8:29, so we're going to go ahead and close off that form. The vote was 27 against, 10 an abstention, and 22 in favor.
With that vote, SA 7302, The Caucus Leader Reformation Act does fail. We will now move into the second reading of SB 7305, the Open Educational Resources Bill. Chair Feldman.
Howdy. Can VP Matley be unmuted as well? Howdy, Senate. So Chair Feldman here. We are bringing back the OER bill, SB 7305, for its second reading here. I'll just get started. I apologize, I'm a little under the weather. So whereas one, textbooks purchased by full-time or part-time students enrolled at an institution of higher education, including but not limited to private and public colleges and universities, online universities, junior colleges, is defined by Section 6.03 of the Education Code and located within the state of Texas, can be obtained on said students. And whereas two, purchasing or renting new or used textbooks, which are required or recommended as instructional materials, all constitute an additional cost for many working territory students. Whereas three, open source textbooks provide professors an alternative, inexpensive, and customizable textbook option that maintains the integrity of a hard copy textbook. And whereas four, the Texas legislature has made great strides in prior sessions, passing House Bill 3652, House Bill 3650, Senate Bill 810, to support OER programs, and on September 1st, 2020, the State of Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board opened a repository for open educational resources, and Texas A&M has been deeply committed to open source textbooks programs within mathematics, biology, economics, and political science, offering textbooks completely online and free of charge to students. Whereas seven, the State of Texas and Texas A&M University have a vested interest in alleviating such burdens and effective disincentives from higher education for Texas Aggies and all Texans in general, especially when such burdens and disincentives are levied by the state itself. Therefore, let it be enacted, the Texas A&M Student Senate advocates that the state of Texas invest greater resources into the continuation and expansion of the Open Educational Resources Repository, as well as continued incentives towards open source textbook programs. Let it further be enacted too, the legislative ideals within this document be regarded as the will of the Texas A&M student body, as well as the Texas A&M Student Government Association. The Legislative Relations Commission of the Texas A&M Student Government Association is tasked and given authority in advocating for this bill and the ideas outlined within it on behalf of the Texas A&M student body. And let it further be enacted for that a copy of this bill be sent to John Sharp, Michael K. Young, Michael O'Quinn, Dr. Daniel Pugh, Michael J. Hardy, Dr. Bruce Herbert, Dean David Carlson, Cedric Matley, Josh Feldman, the battalion.
Are the presenters ready for questions? Are y'all open for questions?
Yes, I apologize.
The presenters are open for questions. Are there any questions at this time?
Promise it's not COVID. I got tested.
Seeing none, that will conclude the period of question and answer, and we'll now move into a period of debate, beginning with debate against. Do I see any debate against? Seeing none, do I see any debate for? Seeing none, debate is one-sided, and that will conclude that period of debate. We'll now move into a period of voting led by Speaker Pro Tempore Spur.
Howdy, Senate. It is 8:34, and that ballot will now be open until 8:37. It's SB 7305. Thank you, Brogan. And I would like to clarify in the chat, this is not Brogan's fault, it's mine. That link was already utilized by somebody in the association network. I just sent you the correct TextAg link. It's 2Bs because it linked to the old bill. It had the same problem last meeting. So the correct TextAg link is there. That was updated like right before we started the meeting. So that's not on Brogan, that's on me. So if you're getting it from the link instead of from the e-meeting resources, the new TextAg link is in the chat. It just has an extra B on the end.
And we'll extend voting to account for that time as well.
We'll give you until 8:38. All right, it is 8:38, so I'm gonna go ahead and close that off. Thank you, Director Marva, got me already. The vote on that was 55 in favor with 1 abstention.
With that vote, SB 7305, the Open Educational Resource Bill, does pass, and that will conclude our period of unfinished business, and we will move into a period of new business, beginning with the reading of SR 7329, the November 11th Veterans Day resolution. I believe the main author is Senator Wood.
Howdy, Senate. Senator Wood, College of Engineering. First off, I would like to say Happy Veterans Day. If we do have any in the Senate room, I don't know. But so starting reading. November 11th Veterans Day resolution, the resolution honoring and remembering the men and women that have served in the armed forces. Whereas one, at the close of World War I, the Allies in Germany put into effect an armistice on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, which was then largely considered the end of the war of all, to end all wars. And whereas two, after 1918, November 11th was dubbed Armistice Day, but in 1926, Congress officially recognized the armistice as the end of the war, and in 1938, it became an official holiday. And whereas three, World War II and the Korean War happened, so on June 1st, 1954, at the urging of veteran services organizations, President Eisenhower, along with Congress, amended the commemoration by changing the word armistice to veterans, so the day would honor American veterans of all wars. And whereas four, the date of Veterans Day was changed multiple times between 1968 to 1974, but it was apparent that most U.S. citizens wanted to celebrate Veterans Day on November 11th, since it was a matter of historic and patriotic significance. And whereas five, Texas A&M University is one of the few senior military colleges and is a leader in contracting officers into the armed forces. And whereas six, over 3,800 students, which includes National Guard, reservists, active duty, veterans, and children or spouses of those who have served or are currently serving in the military, attend Texas A&M. Therefore, let it further be resolved one. The 73rd session of Texas A&M University Student Senate honors and commends all active and inactive members of the military. And let it further be resolved too, the 73rd session of Texas A&M University Student Senate appreciates the sacrifice not only the service members make by being in the military, but also all the family members affected by this sacrifice. And let it further be resolved three, the 73rd session of Texas A&M University Student Senate recognizes all the hard work that the Don and Ellie Noss Veteran Resource and Support Center, the Veteran Services Office, and the Office of Military Admissions at Texas A&M University accomplished, as all offices create fantastic opportunities for student veteran success. 4, the 73rd session of Texas A&M University Student Senate applauds the partnership of Texas A&M University with Service to School, which benefits service members who are transitioning out of the military and wish to pursue undergraduate or graduate degree programs offered by the university. And let it further be resolved 5, 73rd session of Texas A&M University Student Senate proudly stands with and supports all past, present, and future members of the military everywhere. And let it further be resolved 6, a copy of this resolution be sent to Dr. Daniel J. Pugh, Senior Vice President of Student Affairs, Joey Ramirez, Junior Brigadier General, United States Army, retired Commandant, Gerald Jerry L. Smith, Colonel, United States Marine Corps, retired Director of Veterans Resources and Support Center, and Director of Veteran Services, and the battalion. Any questions?
Are there any questions for the presenter? Seeing none, that will conclude the period of question and answer, and we will move into a period of debate, beginning with debate against. Do I see any debate against at this time? Senator Tomlinson.
Senator Tomlinson, College of Geosciences. I have a motion.
Proceed.
I move that myself and anybody else that would like to be a sponsor of this resolution can add their names.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds, we will move by general consent to add Senator Tomlinson, as well as any other senators who fill out the form on the drive to attach themselves as sponsors will be added as sponsors. Do I see any objections? Seeing none, that does pass. Senator Tomlinson, you do still have the floor and debate against.
I yield my time to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to you. Do I see any debate for this resolution? Seeing none, that will conclude the first round of debate. We'll move back into a period of debate against. Do I see any debate against? Seeing none, we'll move into a period of debate 4. Do I see any debate 4? Seeing none, debate has become one-sided, and that will conclude our period of debate. We'll move into a period of voting on this piece of legislation led by Speaker Pro Tempore Spur.
Howdy, Senate. Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, off-campus caucus. It is 8:45, and we will have voting open until 8:48. This is SR 7329, and that link is about to go in the chat, and it can also be, yes, thank you, Brogan. It can also be found in the e-meeting resources folder under the 1111 Senate meeting. Alrighty, guys. Speaker Pro Tempore Spur off-campus caucus. It is now 8:48 p.m. And the vote count there is 55 in favor with 4 in abstention.
So with that vote, SR 7329, the November 11th Veterans Day resolution does pass. We'll now move into the first reading of SB 7306, the Student Health Fee Cap Bill. Chair Feldman.
Howdy, Senate. Chair Feldman, Legislative Relations. One moment. Please, can you unmute VP Matley as well?
Y'all are set.
Perfect. Howdy, Senate. So another bill coming up today for its first reading. This is, my computer's froze. The Student Health Services Fee Cap Bill. That is why we had Student Health Services come and speak to y'all today. You know, big thanks to Dr. Martha Dannenbaum. Really, really great presentation there, and we'll get right into it. So the Student Health Fee Cap Bill is a bill supporting a fee cap increase for student health services. Whereas one, the Texas A&M Student Health Services exists to advance student development and academic success by providing personalized and evidence-based healthcare to Aggies, and whereas two, 70% of student health services funding comes from the student health fee, while the remaining 30% of funding comes from medical services revenues, such as medical office visits, ambulance runs, lab tests, x-rays, etc. Whereas three, as the current student health services building, AP Butyl, currently stands internal renovations are estimated to cost $12 million over the next 5 to 10 years. And whereas four, greater student health services funding is also needed for the hiring of additional staff to maintain and expand patient care for pre-existing services due to increasing student enrollment. And in fall 2018, student SHF increased the student health fee increased to $75 per semester, hitting its legislative cap. Student health fee cap is controlled by the Texas State Legislature and was last changed in 1995 when the Texas A&M student population was only 41,790. An increase to the student health fee cap will allow Texas A&M Student Health Services greater flexibility in the future to adjust due to increasing student enrollment and the creation of necessary services related to COVID-19. Therefore, let it be enacted, one, first, the student body and its student leaders recognize the essential role that student health services has on our campus in providing accessible, affordable health services to Texas A&M University. Second, student body and student leaders acknowledge that the responsibilities of student health services have dramatically increased in the wake of this global pandemic. And let it further be enacted, three, Texas A&M Student Senate would like to request that the Texas State Legislature increase the student health fee cap, the option from current 75 to 200, and the legislative ideals within this document be regarded as the will of the Texas A&M Student Government Association. And the Legislative Relations Commission of the Texas A&M Student Government Association is tasked and given authority in advocating for this bill and the ideals outlined within it on behalf of the Texas A&M student body. And let it further be enacted, six, Michael, this copy of this resolutions be sent to Michael O'Quinn, John Sharp, Michael K. Young, Michael O'Quinn again, Dr. Daniel J. Pugh, Dr. Martha Dannenbaum, Michael J. Hardy, Bruce Herbert, Dean David Carlson, Cedric Matley, Josh Feldman, the battalion. And now we have a period of presentation. VP Matley, if you want to take the lead, Chair Spur, I believe I sent the presentation for the fee cap over to the pro temp email.
Actually, I would like to yield the floor to Sydney Ramon, who is one of my commission members. Allow her to speak on the initial presentation, and I can help out with any questions following that. She's been greatly involved in the process, so I'd like to allow her to be able to speak on it.
If we can unmute Ms. Ramon.
Okay. Howdy, Senate. My name is Sydney Ramon, and I'm going to be giving a short presentation today on the student health fee cap. So let me go ahead and Okay, so this is our presentation on the student health fee cap. And like Cedric said, we're from the Legislative Relations Commission, and this is something that we have been working on with the Legislative Relations Committee. So next slide, please. What is the student health fee cap? So essentially, as was explained before, anyone who attends Texas A&M pays a health services fee of $75, which accounts for roughly 60% of their funding. Like previously stated, it used to be a much larger percentage, but through the years, given all of the services and resources that they've handed out, that's something that's decreased. And depending on the Texas legislator, that fee cap is regulated, and that's something that has not been amended since 1995, when our student population was 41,790, which is a drastic difference from the 69,000 roughly that we see today. Next slide, please. So will this raise the student health fee? This was a question that was addressed earlier, and the answer is no. An increase in the fee cap does not equal an increase in the fee, rather an increase in the amount that could be charged. So one way to view this is as a line of credit. Additionally, an increase in our student health fee must be proposed and approved by the Student Senate, as previously mentioned. Next slide, please. So why do we need an increase in the student health fee cap? So this is something that's sort of reiterated from the piece of legislation. This will just allow our student health services greater flexibility in the future, especially considering that they are providing services relating to COVID-19 and adjusting for student enrollment. And that's all that we have today. Thank you.
Perfect. And we are now open to questions.
Are there any questions for the presenters? Chair Ahmed.
Chair Ahmed, Diversity Inclusion Off-Campus Caucus. This question is not necessarily about this piece specifically, but I know in the presentation they also discussed a USEN fee cap increase. So will there be like two separate pieces, like one about health fee and one about USEN?
Yes, most likely. That USEN piece probably will not be going up until either next meeting or our first meeting in January. But yeah, we most likely will be putting that up fairly shortly.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for our presenters? Seeing none, that will conclude our period of question and answer. And SB 7306, the Student Health Fee Cap Bill, will be sent to the Legislative Relations Committee for further consideration. We'll now consider SB 7307, the Appropriated Funding Bill, and I believe we have the same presenters on this one.
You do indeed. Let me pull it up here. Apologize about the delay here. Howdy, Senate. Chair Feldman once again. Here we have the appropriated funding bill, which is a bill opposing all appropriated funding cuts. So we'll just hop right into it. So whereas one, the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board is responsible for coordinating the funding of the Texas higher education system. Whereas two, in 2014, Texas A&M University experienced 5% budget cut in total around $84.6 million, which resulted in a reduction in 72 faculty positions, a loss of 372 class sections, and $7 million in reduced research productivity, while Texas A&M University enrollment continually increases with every passing academic year. Whereas three, the financial impact of COVID-19 on Texas A&M University has been far-reaching. It necessitates consistent and reliable funding for Texas A&M University to fulfill its mission of serving its students in the state of Texas. Therefore, let it be enacted one. Student body and the student leaders of Texas A&M University take an informed, unified stance against all funding cuts to higher education, understanding that even seemingly marginal cuts have large direct impacts on higher education especially that of Texas A&M University. And let it further be enacted too, that all parties invested in the prosperity of Texas A&M University be informed of the stance of the student body on state funding. Moreover, that state and local leaders are also informed of the position of its Texas A&M University constituents. And let it further be enacted 3, the Texas State Legislature provide Texas A&M University with robust state funding at the highest levels while minimizing overall cuts to higher education in order to address our growing enrollment and expansion as a university. Let it further be enacted 4. The legislative ideals within this document be regarded as the will of the Texas A&M student body as well as the Texas A&M Student Government Association. Let it further be enacted 5. The Legislative Relations Commission of the Texas A&M Student Government Association is tasked and given authority in advocating for this bill and the ideals outlined within it on behalf of the Texas A&M student body. Let it further be enacted 6. A copy of this bill will be sent to John Sharp, Michael K. Young, Michael O'Quinn, Dr. Daniel J. Pugh, Michael J. Hardy, Dr. Bruce Herbert, Dean David Carlson, Cedric Matley, Joshua Feldman, the battalion. And I believe we have a presentation.
Does anyone need to be unmuted for the presentation?
It should just be us. Howdy, Senate. I'll be leading the presentation on this. As discussed, this is over the appropriate funding bill. We can just move ahead to the next slide. So just an overview of how funding works. 80% of the funding A&M gets comes from general revenue appropriations. And so that comes from essentially formulas and then also non-formula assigned funding. There's a whole document on that at any of your requests. I can forward it to you that discusses how appropriations work in a great amount of detail in Texas government. Next slide. So more importantly, recently, 5% reduction. So there's going to be a plan for a 5% reduction at the A&M University level. As you can see on the slide, what that means, 84.6 million across TAMU system. Also, that means reduction in faculty. And what you don't realize is when there's a decrease in faculty and also in student attendance, that also affects the formula funding and how appropriations work on that end. So across the board, big cuts coming down the pipeline. That's what we need to basically understand. Next slide. So what is the purpose of this? Minimizing cuts. We don't know specifically what's going to happen until the legislative session kicks off. But the whole idea of this bill is to be able to have a flexible foundation from where we can go ahead and tackle any cuts that are brought up in the legislative session. And it's mainly because that affects students probably the most out of anything that will happen this year. Again, because as discussed and seen in the previous slide, cuts to faculty, cuts to funding for your education, and other students' education. Next slide. Thank you. So A&M does have a growing enrollment currently. And so what that means is we need more funding, right? Because that means more strains on classrooms, more strains on faculty. And the moment you have cuts on faculty, cuts on education across the board, that means that all of the complaints that we hear about too large of class sizes, not enough rooms, all these sort of things, it just gets worse. Obviously with COVID-19, there's a lot more strains on the system in terms of how we conduct classes, and then also strains on all systems that require funding. So that's what it comes down to. Cuts are coming, and we need to be able to advocate against that. So that's the gist of this bill. Thank you.
Are there any questions for our presenters? And seeing no questions, SB 7307, the appropriated funding bill, will be sent to the Legislative Relations Committee for further consideration. And we'll now consider for the first time a 7303, the Election Regulations Reformation Act. Chair Hine, is there anyone else you'd like to be unmuted along with you?
Yes, we have our beautiful election commissioner, Kara Maxwell, with us tonight. So, Kara, if you want to take it away from the whereases.
Awesome, beautiful. So this is an act to reduce inconsistencies and provide greater clarity within the current election regulations. So whereas the official email address of the election commissioner is not currently included in the code, creating confusion in regard to appropriate means of communication between candidates and the commissioner. And whereas there exists an inconsistency in the definition of the official start of the pre-campaigning period, and whereas there remains a rule pertaining to the modified campaigning period, which is no longer a period that exists within campaigning, this rule should now pertain to general campaigning, the period extended to replace modified campaigning. And whereas a rule pertaining to student organization communication is unclear in definition and provides no context for enforcement. And whereas areas which have traditionally been considered restricted for the purpose of campaigning are not explicitly included in the rules and should be added. And whereas there exists two definitions of campaign material, creating confusion in regard to the process of recording expenditures and ability to regulate certain campaign activity. And whereas verbiage pertaining to the necessity of co-candidate submission of receipts for expenditures is misleading and inconsistent with other requirements for the submission of expenditures. And whereas the title of Article 8 is not reflective of its content and creates confusion when navigating the rules. And whereas proving a candidate's intent in the purchasing of materials as is necessary per the rules as currently written presents extreme difficulty, and the elections could be more clearly regulated if a change of criteria is made.
Let it be enacted. 1, Title 5, subsection 6, Chapter 601, Section 1, or Article 1, Section 3, be amended to read as the following by adding the official email of the election commissioner, tamuelection@gmail.com. Let it be enacted. 2, Title 5, Subtitle 6, Chapter 601, Article 4, Section 1, Subsection C, Subsection 1, be amended to read as the following by striking starting the Monday after filing closes, but before general campaigning begins. Let it be enacted. 3, Title 5, Subtitle 6, Chapter 601, Article 4, Section 1, Subsection C, Subsection 2, be amended to read as the following by striking the first day of in the S in spring there, so we can capitalize the next S. Let it be enacted. 4, Title 5, Subtitle 6, Chapter 601, Article 4, Section 1, Subsection D, Subsection 4, be amended by striking to make campaign signs and shirts for modified and inserting for general campaigning. Let it be enacted. 5, Title 5, Subsection 6, oh my goodness, this is hard, Chapter 601, Article 4, Section 3, Subsection B, by striking all of the subsection B. Let it be enacted. 6, Title 5, Subtitle 6, Chapter 601, Article 5, Section 2, Subsection E, be amended to read as the following by inserting Rudder Fountain and Rudder Plaza. Let me scroll down. Let it be enacted. 7, Title 5, Subtitle 6, Chapter 601, Article 7, Section 1, Subsection A, Subsection 6, be amended to read as the following by striking as any items, services, or materials used or intended to be used in the course of campaigning or preparing for a campaign, and inserting by Article 4, Section 3, Subsection A. Let it be enacted. 8, Title 5, Subtitle 6, Chapter 601, Article 7, Section 1, Subsection F, Subsection 1, be amended to read as the following by striking may and inserting must. Let it be enacted. 9, Title 5, Subtitle 6, Chapter 601, Article 8, be renamed from spending to auditing. And let it be enacted. 10, Title 5, Subtitle 6, Chapter 601, Article 8, Section 1, Subsection C, be amended to read as the following by striking both of in the first line, and then striking would not be purchased but for the candidates running for election in the second line, and inserting meets definition of campaign materials as defined in Article 4, Section 3, Subsection A, and therefore let it be enacted. 11, a copy of this bill be sent to moi, Megan Hine, Rules and Regulations Chair.
Are there any questions for the presenter? Senator Trosclair.
Senator Trosclair, On Campus Caucus. Can everyone hear me okay? I was having some technical difficulties earlier. Okay, awesome. Chair Hine, I have a couple concerns about some of the vagaries in terms of what is defined as campaign materials. And perhaps I'm confused because I'm not the most versed person on the code, but in Active 4, it just has materials used, and then the part that you are going to be removing explicitly talks about how it is used for campaigns. Is there another point in the code that gives a better definition, and that's just being removed for clarification purposes?
So a lot of this discussion came from after the J court cases, and it was more deeply discussed in the Election Commission's meeting. So Kara, if you have a more deep answer for this, I feel like it'd probably be most appropriate for you to answer.
Yes, of course. So Kara Maxwell, Election Commissioner. So the part that we are wanting to strike is exactly intended to create more clarity. Under Article 4, Section 3, titled Materials, it defines campaign materials as anything distributed or displayed for the purpose of soliciting votes for a candidate. And this is a lot easier to prove and a lot more direct than what is currently written in another place in the rules. So this is just intended to help provide more clarity and reduce inconsistencies.
Permission to follow up, Mr. Speaker.
Granted.
Thank you. So just so we're on the same page, these changes are removing portions that were redundant for the sole purpose of ensuring it's a lot easier to prove or disprove, that the standard of proof is a lot clearer versus the vagaries that caused the J court cases in the first place.
That is exactly correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the presenters? Seeing none, that will conclude that period of question and answer. And SA 7303, the Election Regulations Reformation Act, will be sent to the Rules and Regulations Committee for further consideration. We'll now move on to the consideration of SR 7330, the SAFAB recommendation resolution. And I am actually going to vacate the chair to Speaker Pro Tempore Spur for the presentation of this resolution.
Speaker McHugh, you may proceed.
All right, let me pull this up here real quick. All right, this is a FAB recommendation resolution, a resolution regarding the FAB FY22 recommendations. Whereas one, the Student Fees Fair Advisory Board presented their FY22 departmental proposal, their FY22 departmental proposal recommendations to the Student Senate during the General Senate meeting on October 28, 2020. And the Student Senate being able to ask questions of the Board of Presenters had none, and the Texas A&M Student Senate therefore let it be resolved. The Texas A&M Student Senate acknowledges and supports the FY22 recommendations approved by SAFAB, and let it further be resolved 4, a copy of this resolution be sent to Dr. Daniel J. Pugh Sr., Tom Reber, and Morgan C. Katz. So just to kind of clarify the purpose of this, SAFAB obviously presented to us at our last meeting. This is just to let them know that we affirm their presentation and affirm where they have elected to, what they've elected to do with their budget. And now I'm open for questions.
The speaker has yielded his time to questions. Do I see any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, we will now move into a period of debate. Do I see any debate against?
Point of order.
State the nature of your point of order.
A bill only has a first and second reading and a period of answer and questions, and it doesn't have a period of debate.
This is a resolution.
It says bill on the, oh, just kidding. I was on the wrong one. My apologies.
Do I see any debate against? Seeing no debate against, do I see any debate in favor? That will conclude the first round of debate. For the second round of debate, do I see any debate against? Do I see any debate in favor? And I don't know if I need to entertain a third round of debate, but I think by code no, Zach's telling me no. Okay, with that, I will recognize myself to go into voting, a period of voting. It is now 9:14 p.m. This is SR 7330. You will have until 9:17 to fill out the ballot, which can be found in the e-meeting materials folder for the 11/11/20 meeting or on the link that Brogan has sent below. And I am yielding the chairship back to Speaker McHugh.
Chair Teague, please state your point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. The chairship should only be handed back over after the results of the vote have been announced by the Speaker pro tempore.
Seeing Chair Hine, confirm, please.
Chair Hine, Rules and Regulations. Yes, Chair Teague is correct.
Perfect. Seeing as that is correct, and I do stand out of order in taking the chair back, I relinquish the chair again to Speaker pro tempore Spur.
Sorry. All right, guys. It is 17, so we're going to go ahead and close off that form. And with a vote of 42 in favor and 5 in abstention, that does pass. And I believe now I can relinquish the chair back to Speaker McHugh.
Please, Speaker pro tempore Spur and Chair Teague, Chair Hine, certainly correct us again if we're wrong with the relinquishing of the chair there. But with that, we will now move into the consideration of SR 7331, the Native American / Alaskan Heritage Month resolution. Chair Ahmed, I believe you're the primary author. Do you have anyone else presenting with you?
Hadi, Chair Ahmed, Diversity Inclusion, Campus Caucus. If you can unmute Senator Miles and Senator David Garcia. And it'll be the 3 of us presenting.
All right, y'all should be.
Yeah, I'll introduce it, and then Senator Miles could just get straight started into the whereases. So this is a resolution to recognize and celebrate the diverse cultures, traditions, and history of Native Americans and Alaskans.
Whereas one, the first American Indian Day was celebrated in May 1916 in New York. More than 7 decades later, then President George H.W. Bush in 1990 signed a joint congressional resolution designating the month of November National American Indian Heritage Month. And
whereas as of 2019, there are 6.9 million Native Americans / Alaskan natives living in the United States, and 574 federally recognized Indian tribes that have a right to self-government. And
whereas 3, as of today, there are 3 federally recognized and 2 state recognized Native American tribes in Texas today. And
whereas 4, the Native American and Indigenous Student Organization, NASA, is the only Native American student organization at Texas A&M. And
whereas 5, October 12th is recognized as Indigenous Peoples Day and was celebrated throughout the country and at Texas A&M, led by NAISO with a message to address the controversies of Columbus Day and commemorate Native Americans' contribution to our society. And
whereas 6, as of fall 2020, there are 153 students enrolled, 22% of the entire student body enrolled as Native Americans who attend Texas A&M.
Whereas 7, as of fall 2020, there are 30 Native American staff members, 0.41% of the entire staff population currently employed by Texas A&M. And
therefore, let it be resolved 1. The 73rd session of the Texas A&M Student Senate recognizes the month of November as National Native American / Alaskan Heritage Month. And
let it be further resolved 2, the 73rd session of Student Senate commends all Native American students as they continue to celebrate their cultures, heritages, and traditions, such as Corps Cadet member George Haas. And
let it be further resolved 3, it's supposed to be. The 73rd session of Student Senate commends Texas A&M University libraries for actively providing the history of Native American Alaskan Heritage Month on their website, along with recommendations of related books and movies. And
therefore, let it be further resolved 4. The 73rd session of Student Senate encourages Texas A&M University to better advocate and represent smaller minority groups such as the Native American student population on and off campus. And
let it be further resolved 4, the 73rd session of Student Senate encourages the student body and administration to continue raising awareness and bringing recognition to the Native American student population at Texas A&M, even though their number is minuscule. And
let it be further resolved 5, a copy of this resolution be sent to the battalion, Dr. Daniel J. Pugh Sr., Vice President of Student Affairs, Dr. Robin Means Coleman, Vice President and Associate Provost for Diversity, Dr. Tanya Driver, Director of the Department of Multicultural Services, the Native American and Indigenous Student Organization, NASO, and George Haas.
And with that, we yield our time to questions.
The speakers are open for questions. Are there any questions for our presenters at this time? Senator Marufo. Senator Marufo, are you with us?
Senator Marufo, Liberal Arts Caucus. My question for the presenters is, was there any research done? I know that Mark Dawson in the DMS does it when he presents, of like land recognition of the land that Texas A&M was built on. Did y'all get my question?
I guess it was not included in this resolution, but if you have anything that you'd like us to include about land recognitions, like we'd be very open to like amendments to like make sure we include that part.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for our presenters? Seeing none, that will conclude our period of question and answer, and we will move into a period of debate, beginning with debate against. Do I see any debate against? I would like to recognize Senator Chung Pizarro with a motion.
Senator Chungo Pizarro, off-campus caucus. I move to add myself and anyone else who'd like to be a sponsor for this resolution.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds, we will move by general consent to add Senator Chung Pizarro as well as any senators who fill out the form on the drive as sponsors to this piece of legislation. Do I see any objections to general consent? Seeing none, that does pass. Senator Chung Pizarro, you do still have the floor in debate against.
I yield my time to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to. We'll now proceed to a period of debate 4. Do I see any debate 4 at this time? Seeing none, that will conclude the first round of debate, and we'll move into a period of debate against. In our second round, do I see any debate against? Seeing none, do I see any debate 4? And seeing none, debate has become one-sided, and that will conclude our period of debate. We'll now move into a period of voting, led by Speaker Pro Tempore Spur.
Howdy, Senate. It is 9:25. This is SR 7331, and voting will be open until 9:28.
So I see there may be some trouble with the sponsorship form in the drive. I'm told it's on. They're double checking on it all though. So if it's still not working, it may be a Wi-Fi issue or connection issue. If you're able to refresh or maybe check Wi-Fi connection, but they are checking to make sure that that's also working in the back end. And as Speaker Pro Tempore said in the chat, if that, she'll get you added to that piece of legislation.
All right, it is 9:28 p.m., so that form is going to go ahead and close with a vote count of 53 in favor and 3 in abstention.
With that vote, SR 7331, the Native American / Alaskan Heritage Month resolution does pass. We'll now move into a period of open session. Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, have any pieces been submitted for open session in the drive?
Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, Off-Campus Caucus, there have not.
So that will conclude our period of open session. We'll now move into a period of committee reports, beginning with a committee report from Speaker Pro Tempore Spur.
Well, howdy, Senate. Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, Off-Campus Caucus. Bear with me here. I have kind of a long update tonight. First of all, I want to say that the votes have been updated in the drive. They have not been updated in the website. They will be by the end of this week, and that legislation will also be updated and sent out by the end of this week. If you were not able to sponsor and you were having issues with the sponsor form, just please send me an email with the information that normally goes on the sponsorship form, and I will get you added to that piece. I also wanted to say, I think it was on the last piece that was read, there were 2 let it be resolved that were the same number. I can fix that, and I caught that. So I just want to let y'all know that. But I wanted to take a moment to talk about my Senate involvement. During my sophomore year, I ran for a Senate seat, not really knowing what I was getting myself into. I still really hadn't found a place to fit in or belong at A&M, and this was my last-ditch effort before I was submitting a transfer application to another university. By a stroke of luck, I was elected to the Liberal Arts Caucus and eventually elected as the Constituency Affairs Chair. Throughout my time in the 72nd session, Senate became my home and my family. The people I have met through Senate will be with me for a lifetime. I have met my best friends here. I found the agricultural economics here, and I found my place to fit in on campus. To name a few people who have made this place a place I wanted to stay, I wanted to thank first and foremost our wonderful Senate advisors who have changed my life for the better, Dylan Murray and Amy Lloyd, and all of my amazing friends who I have met through Senate, Carrie Marbut, Zach McHugh, Evan Berger, Reagan McGill, Chandler Trosclair, Josh Feldman, Joseph Rogers, Brogan Guinya, and many others I don't have the time to name. These people challenge me on a daily basis to be the best person I can be, while running alongside me to support me through every step of my life. I can't begin to explain how grateful I am for every person who has changed my life through this amazing organization. Since my arrival in Senate, there's not been a week where I have spent less than 20 to 30 hours devoting my time to this organization. I have given everything I have to make this university a better place. I reconstructed the Constituency Affairs Committee from ground up and tried to make Senate not just a place for debate, but a place to make friends and to find community. The 72nd session will always have a special place in my heart because it will be the only full session of Senate I will serve in as I am graduating this December. The 73rd session has been a bumpy ride. None of us knew what to expect when we got the call that school was canceled for the rest of the semester. I'll never forget standing in that TJ Maxx dressing room falling to the floor in a flood of tears because of the cancellation. We have all lost so much this year. And to each of you, know it's okay to feel the weight of the loss you've experienced, but also know we are here to support you through that pain. For countless months, Speaker McHugh, myself, Director Marbut, and the ops team have killed ourselves to make online Senate work. We put Senate before our own well-being so that Senate can flourish. It's what we're called to do as student leaders. The sacrifices we make as student leaders are immense, but we do it for the benefits of the students that we serve. I want to give a special thank you to Director Marbut, who is not only one of my best friends, but one of the hardest working, diligent, and passionate individuals I've ever worked with. Her work as the Executive Director of Operations has been unparalleled this year, and I could never have been able to do it without her side. She does this all with a smile on her face, and she's not even a sitting senator. So I can't even begin to explain the anger and the sadness that sits in my heart that there are some of you that I will never meet face to face. We can thank those of you who continually refuse to follow COVID protocols and the Office of the Vice President of Student Affairs for that. Upon my departure from this role, I ask you, Senate, to hold your administration accountable. Show them that the mental well-being of the students is appalling this semester, and the continual disregard of building community for students is showing. Stand up, speak your voice. Once again, I am heartbroken that I was not able to speak this to you face to face, but it is with this that I am announcing my resignation from the role of Speaker Pro Tempore effective November 18th at 7 p.m. I am announcing my resignation tonight from my role of Speaker Pro Tempore in order for candidates to have the week to decide to run to fill my vacancy on the 18th. If you are interested in running for the position, I will be hosting sessions to walk any interested members through the responsibilities and the roles of the Speaker Pro Tempore, as well as meeting the ops team. Senate, thank you for everything you have given me. To each and every one of you, never forget your worth and never be afraid to speak your voice for what matters. It's what you're here for. And with that, I will yield my time to questions.
Are there any questions for Speaker Pro Tempore Spur? Seeing none, Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, I know I speak on behalf of all of us when I say thank you so much for everything that you've put into Senate, and thank you so much for the time, the dedication that you've committed to this body and ensuring that this body would be successful in its goal of representing the voice of the student body. I know the loss of you as our Speaker Pro Tempore will be felt through the remainder of the session. And with that, we will go ahead and move on to Chair Hine.
Chair Hine, rules and regulations. That's a little hard to follow, but Hannah, I just want to say thank you so much for your work this session. And you were one of the first people that I met when I came into Senate, and I don't think I'd be sitting here in this position without your help guiding through my session as a freshman senator. So thank you, and we're sad to see you go. Back to General Senate. Great job tonight. I love to see the smooth flow of Parley Pro as always. Just a short little thing. I have a committee meeting tomorrow at 5:45. It will be over Zoom. We'll be discussing the Election Regulations Reformation Act so we can get that passed next week. We have to have that passed next week if we want any changes made to the election regulations to be applied in the spring. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, changes you want to see, please come to this meeting tomorrow so that way we can have it passed next week. Other than that, I yield my time to questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Hine? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Hine. Chair Teague.
Howdy, Senate. Chair Teague, Finance. As usual, the Finance Committee continues to work to ensure that all the committees are being held accountable for the monies that we have allocated them, and that any changes that they need to make to ensure that efficiency and effectiveness is continuing to be made. That's really all I have. I yield the remainder of my time to questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Teague? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Teague. Chair Ahmed.
Howdy, Senate. Chair Ahmed, Diversity and Inclusion. I, as many people in the room, am very in his departure, but you've made great strides in Senate and have definitely changed the game in this organization, so thank you for that. Outside of that, there is a message I have for you all from Lily Piper, the Diversity Commissioner. She initially wanted to tell you all this in open forum, but their event was extremely busy. But they were hosting, the Diversity Commission was hosting Maroon Table Talks, a dialogue on race and ethnicity, and they held one today from 6 to 7:30, and it was really successful. Over 80 people registered. And so she wanted me to let you know about another one that they will be having this Friday not this Friday, but upcoming Friday, November 20th. It'll be from 6 to 7:30, and it'll be hosted by Dr. Joe Fagan of the Sociology Department. So definitely keep a lookout for that and definitely do attend. And now to my updates. I had a great meeting with Dr. Coleman and the Diversity Commissioner about a potential campaign we want to launch. That's definitely going to be brainstorming over winter break for next semester. Me and my committee did draft questions for a diversity input form. After speaking with the commissioner, we do have plans of maybe making this input form specifically targeted for SGA committees and commissions to see how they are doing on the diversity front. And outside of that, I know it's a long time coming about having diversity workshops in Student Senate. So we do have one that will be hosted by Aggies to Aggies, and this will be November 30th, so 2 Mondays from now. It'll be from 7 to 9 p.m. And this will be an opportunity, correct me if I'm wrong, Pro Temp Spur, you will be able to take an unexcused absence and make it excused. And we'll hash out the details later about like how to log all of that in. But I'll make sure to send you guys the Zoom information later on sometime next week. And this will be, and I will try to make this opportunity open to all of SJ, not just Senate, but please do attend. It is optional, but you do have that incentive for your absences to become excused. And outside of that, that is all my updates. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Chair Ahmed? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Ahmed. Chair Jeffress.
Howdy, Senate. Chair Jeffress, Academic Affairs. I'm also really sad to see Hannah go. I miss you a lot. But as always, my committee report is found in my committee folder. There's a lot of information on there, so I highly recommend you go over there. It also contains the links to my office hours and my committee meeting. I just want to say that my committee's working on a lot of projects right now, and hopefully we all have an update on most of the projects that are going next week. Some ones I'm really interested in is bulk mail right now. I had a meeting this week discussing how revisions can be made to it since we don't receive like 20 emails a day and no one reads any of them. And then also I've received some positive feedback on possibly creating a test bank. So I'm looking into that right now. I yield my time to questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Jeffress? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Jeffress. Chair Feldman.
Howdy, Senate. Chair Feldman, Legislative Relations. First off, thank you all so much for passing the OER bill today. And I hope you all learned a lot about student health services and the formula funding and budget. Can't wait to bring those out to y'all next week. We have a bunch of other stuff in the pipeline for LR, so next meeting is going to be a big one for us as well. But a lot of great collaboration with the commission. First of all, for all the hard work, my committee and the commission, VP Matley, SBP Mendoza, I want to say thank y'all so much. Y'all have been so supportive, and it's been such a great process. Y'all have all done some really great work. To the committee and the commission, y'all are doing a bang-up job. Keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait to see what we do. And other than that, I just want to say that, it's definitely hard to say goodbye to Pro Tem Spur. Hannah Spur is one of the most dedicated, passionate people I know. I've never seen someone with a passion for Student Senate, for issues that she's involved with, like her. She's a great friend to have. She's someone that I trust very dearly. And it's going to be tough to see her go. But Hannah, you've done such a great job. And we can't wait to see what you do later. So thank you so much, Hannah. And I'm open to questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Feldman? Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I did forget to say to my committee, please check the Slack. We need to pick a time to meet this weekend for an emergency meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Feldman. Chair Syed.
Howdy, Senate. Chair Syed, Student Services. I had some updates from Transportation Services. First of all, they have responded back to our resolution and have voted to support our recommendation that was made from our resolution regarding the Matthew Gaines bus bill, and they will be renaming the bus route Cotton Bowl to Matthew Gaines this spring semester. They are planning to unveil that as well as their new electric buses that are on the way for the spring semester. So it's really great to see this happen. This was a process that started back in March, and did take some time, but it did happen, so that's great. Other than that, the other update is that Transportation Services is working to move away from the tags that we use to get into parking garages to license plate scans. So there is some pros and cons to that, but that is a cool change that is also on the way. Other than that, thank you so much. That's all the updates I have. Please let me know if you all have any questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Syed? Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I apologize. My camera just quit working. There it goes. Chair Teague, Finance. Chair Syed, you mentioned the license plate scans to get into. Was that just parking garages, or are they trying to move away from physical tags even in lots and just police those via license plates as well?
They're looking for license plates for all parking permits.
Awesome, thank you.
You'll still purchase a permit, but it will be done through your license plate.
Thank you.
Senator Wood.
Senator Wood, College Engineering. Sorry. So Texas A&M has a ginormous chance to go to the Cotton Bowl. Is there any this year? Is there any thing that you'd be open to recognize Texas A&M going to the Cotton Bowl?
Yeah, I'm sure we could do something for that.
Cool. Thanks.
Are there any other questions for Chair Syed? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Syed. Chair Rodriguez.
Howdy, Senate. Hope you guys are staying safe and well. Just a couple of updates from my committee. I will be having a committee meeting next Monday, November 16th at 7 p.m. We will be formatting questions for our next Ag Input that's going to be coming out by the end of this month, so be there. I want everybody's input. If you have any questions you would like to have addressed in the next Ag Input, we're going to go over everything. So if you're not in my committee, you're more than welcome to come to family. So hope to see you guys there. Right now, I'm working on sending out lots of emails to people that responded to the previous Ag Input, just kind of giving an update of how Student Senate is trying to work through some of the things that they suggested in the previous Ag Input. So it's kept us really busy, and so I'm trying to send all those out. So I'll keep you guys updated if we have any more responses that we should address. Also, let me know if you would like to attend my office hours. I will be having some next Monday as well at 5 p.m. And if you can't make that, just text me, call me anytime. Always down to meet. I love talking to people, so always hit me up. I hope to see you guys next week, hopefully in person. So that'd be really cool. And lastly, I just want to say my goodbyes to Hannah. She was like one of the best people that I've met in Senate. I remember last year in person, we would always just be sitting next to each other having. So I just wanted to say, no matter where you go, I know you're going to do great things. And I just want to say I love you, girl, and wishing you the best of luck and God bless. So other than that, I'm open to questions. Thank you.
Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. Chair Rodriguez, you mentioned, maybe I misheard, you mentioned that the ag input would be going out next month. Would that be for December, or are you mentioning the November ag input that will be going out at the end of this month?
Yes, that'll be ag input that is going out this month for November. I know that we're having one sent out every month, so we wanted to get the questions put together and perfected so we can send that out latest next week. So.
Are there any other questions for Chair Rodriguez? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Rodriguez. Chair Oldag.
Howdy, Senate. First, I just want to say goodbye to Hannah. I'm really sad to see her leave, but I know that she's just done a lot of great work within Senate and really made an impact within SGA and also just on our university like as a whole through all of the legislation we've been able to accomplish. So just thank you for that, Hannah, and I'm really sad to see you go. Also, thank you, Senate, for confirming the core values nominee. That was really awesome. Joseph wanted me to give a shout out, so our Senator Rogers, sorry. So thank you, everyone, for confirming that. As far as updates go with CR, we had new city council members elected and places 1, 3, and 5. And there was a runoff election because there wasn't a majority vote for place 4. So the city has actually decided to have the runoff election on December 15th, and there will be early voting from November 30th to up until December 15th. So I know this is if you're in my committee, I know this is something that we've talked about, and last time we met, the runoff date hadn't been decided. It's been decided now, so with the legislation and stuff that we're working on, we can work on getting that in there. And I will message tomorrow about our next meeting time. I would like to meet sometime before the next meeting on Wednesday, but I do have a paper due at midnight, so I will text y'all in the Slack tomorrow morning or sometime tomorrow about when we're going to meet, hopefully before the next meeting. I think that's all the updates I have. Things going on with the city. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Chair Oldag?
Or any questions from anyone in my committee about any of the new information that I just shared? I feel like I just threw a lot out there, so. Cool.
Seeing none, thank you, Chair Oldag. Director Marbut.
Howdy, Senate. Executive Director Marbut. The Operations Committee has been working extremely hard to try and figure out the possibility how things will run if we do end up having hybrid meetings. That's been a huge task that we've been dealing with. We found a solution, however, unfortunately, we were not able to carry that out this meeting. Besides that, the Operations Committee, we have recently appointed Senator Tyler Smith to the Operations Committee as our new Director of Legislative Operations. Whoop. And as always, a recording of this meeting will be uploaded to the YouTube and our website tomorrow, very promptly. And we will also have vote counts available, updated, on the Google Drive as soon as possible. Lastly, it is very disheartening to see Pro Tem Spur leave. She has been a person I've worked very closely with for the entirety of this session thus far. But I know she's going to do great things, and she's graduating. That's a big accomplishment. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, call me, beat me if you want to reach me. If not, I yield my time to questions.
Are there any questions for Director Marbut? Seeing none, thank you, Director Marbut. We'll now move into a period of executive reports, beginning with Student Body President Mendoza.
Howdy, Senate. Good to be with y'all, and also happy Veterans Day. I appreciate Senator Wood and others for your work on that legislation and recognition. Also appreciate the work from the Executive Committee as well as Pro Tem Spur for this meeting. Wish it would have been in person, but hopeful for next meeting as well, especially for those of you that are graduating.
would love y'all to have the opportunity to either revisit Coldest 144 or visit Coldest 144. I would also love to tap my ring in 144 for the first time, and I've had it since March. So we definitely all have things to look forward to on hopefully next Wednesday. As far as SGA goes and our cabinet, I want to quickly emphasize what Chair Feldman and VP Matley shared with y'all and thank them for their work. Please reach out to them in the meantime before the quick turnaround next meeting if you have questions or concerns on what they presented on. I also know that their quick meeting that Chair Feldman mentioned might look into addressing Chair Ahmed's comment about the use and component, and maybe we can contribute that piece of legislation, given that it's the same nature of the request. So keep a lookout for that. Traditions Enrichment, our VP Rivera met and hosted their first Traditions Enrichment Assembly since the last time we've met as a Senate. Went over very well. We had a one-pager created based on what was shared from our traditions-based organizations. It's been given to student activities, will hopefully be given to other student organizations as well, and help lead a larger discussion, student leader dialogue, starting actually tomorrow with student activities. Jack Med mentioned Maroon Table Talk. I'll leave it at that. Was pleased to hear that I think they had roughly 100 or so more register for that, and it was faculty, staff, both. And so that was really encouraging and exciting. I got to go to a part of it and hear a bit. We had officially launched our Listeners on Call partnership on our SGA social media. I guess it was last week. We'll be continuing to post for that. Please share with your friends. It was in our newsletter as well. 850 free calls for students as long as they register with their TAMU email address. So please share with your friends, especially as we focus on mental health with the finals approaching and just holiday season in general. And working this semester continuously, end of semester reporting. So we're asking our committees and exec members for data that they might have to share out with the student body. We've got a number of it want a complete look, and also are planning for the spring. So working to see with new student-friendly programs and others, what could a howdy week type of event look like in the spring? It's not something that's traditionally there, but knowing that we want involvement to increase in the spring, how can we help facilitate that from SGA's front with the association and others? And then campus generally, we, with the help of both student government and graduate professional student government, got the Q-Drop extension until November 30th, excuse me, which was originally yesterday. Recognizing that does not solve all the issues, we've put a lot more on the table that we would love to be considered. As of now, that's what we've got, which I think is a great start. A lot more as the semester progresses. I'm sure we'll continue to hear from students on pass-fail and other options that we'll continue to push forward. But as of now, Q-Drop extended until November 30th. And then we're hearing about other stuff as the semester comes to a close, including meal plan rollovers, additional grading accommodations, and we'll keep an eye out for how faculty are basically treating students as the semester progresses, as everyone's going to be inquiring about their grades and making sure that those responses are appropriate, given they only have one way to reach them this semester. So keep an eye out for that. Please let us know if that's a difficulty you're hearing from students. And then finally, some stuff from our committees themselves. So we had a committee roundtable this evening, final one for the month. Was able to hop into that. Good discussion on spring planning, really good discussion from our committees, excited for the spring. But we've got Traditions Council that has reflections displays in the flag room for Bonfire Remembrance until Thursday at 5 p.m. Encourage you all to go take a look at that for the 12 we lost. And also, of course, the remembrance itself is November 18th next week at 2:42 a.m. That will be live streamed on bonfire.tamu.edu. You're also welcome to go out in person and encouraged to follow all procedures that are necessary, including social distances and wearing a mask. But it will be both live streamed and able to be viewed in person. And then 12th Can is working on Swipe Out Hunger all week. You can donate unused meal swipes at Sabisa and the Commons until this Friday. I think it's capped at 1,500 meal swipes. As of today, they had about 1,200. So please, if you know freshmen, if you all still have meal plans, go donate them if you're not going to use them. And then their last openings are November. And then the last thing I'll share is that I was just notified through our great advisor, Amy Lloyd, that newly elected representative for the state of Texas, Basalt, I believe his name is pronounced, who our archives are named after, is looking for people to work for him, apparently. And given that he loves Student Senate, he wanted us to pass along to you that if you're interested in possibly working for him long-term or short-term, given the sessions coming up in January, reach out to Amy Lloyd and see if that can't work out. But also reach out to me with any other concerns, topics you want. We have almost a month left, still a lot of work to do and a lot of things we can get accomplished. But beyond that, take care of yourself and others as tests are happening, as COVID is spiking, and as you go and see your families very, very soon and the holiday season approaches. Thanks. Open to questions.
Are there any questions for SBP Mendoza? Senator Trosclair.
Senator Trosclair, on campus caucus. Mr. Mendoza, I guess my question kind of aligns with both COVID and some of the challenges students have faced, predominantly with the dining halls. I understand a survey they had done was to indicate whether or not students would be on campus after the 25th. I know I've talked to a lot of students. Some are not sure what they're going to do. A lot of students wanting to stay on campus. It's contingent upon whether or not that football game does happen. A lot of people don't want to go to the game, then come back home and then go back, risk exposing their family if they catch something at the game. So to what extent is university dining looking to do post November 25th? And then is there any way they can open up another dining hall, or, there's a lot of, I guess, gray area with that.
Yeah, thanks, Senator Trosclair. I don't know exactly who will be open. I do know that they will be open given the fact that campus will remain open. I think housing is open till December 12th, and so students can stay here until then. I'll reach out and ask and also request that the more that's open, the better. I have heard from specifically freshmen who are, most of who has dining plans and live on campus, that the majority, if not all, for the most part, are staying for finals. Really, they don't know what to expect and they want to make sure that they can focus in. So I think that's a big thing. I'll look into it, but also follow up with you offline on that.
Permission to follow up, Mr. Speaker?
Granted.
Thank you. That is the primary concern. The majority of freshmen I have spoken to have said the exact same thing, is they were uncertain on how the finals process is going to go. A lot of them are concerned whether they have disability service accommodations, or they're concerned about the professor, or they're worried about at home issues involving security when taking the exam and whatnot. So I guess those questions in particular, if those could be addressed to freshmen by administration, that would be a significant help, because a lot of them have articulated that to me.
Okay, noted. I'll pass up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Smith.
Thank you. Senator Smith, Coles Caucus. SVP Mendoza, I know it's a closed door situation. I was wondering if you're at liberty to discuss any type of updates in the search for a university president.
So appreciate the question, Senator Smith. I did have to sign a non-disclosure, so I can't speak to the process itself. I can tell you it's ongoing, and what I'm supposed to do and 100% willing to do, and so I'd love to take a phone call from you or anyone else, is what you're looking for in that position. So my job is to represent y'all, and so if you have desires and characteristics, anything specific, if you have a name specifically, I would love to hear you out on it, because my job is to pass that forward. I can't touch on specifically what's happening and what's not happening beyond what's already been shared publicly, but 100% willing to take a phone call from you or others, or hear what you're looking for specifically from the candidate, because that's what they asked me to share on in the meetings.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for SBP Mendoza? Seeing none, thank you, SBP Mendoza. Chief Justice McIntosh.
All right, well, howdy, Senate. So I just wanted to really quickly thank the Election Commissioner, Karen Maxwell, as well as Chair Hine for some of those much needed revisions that they proposed tonight. We really appreciate you taking the time to read through our opinions, see everything that we had to say, and reflect that with some changes. I know the entire court was very excited to read the changes that were proposed. So thank you guys for that. That's really all that I have tonight. I'm open to questions.
Are there any questions for Chief Justice McIntosh? Seeing none, Chief Justice McIntosh, thank you so much. I'll now step down from the chair and hand that over to Speaker Pro Tempore Spur and give some updates here myself. I know, first and foremost, I want to touch on the turbulence that we faced this last week and having a meeting that was going to be in person / online, and then that meeting not being in person. I know that was a cause of frustration as well as a cause of uncertainty. And I want to very much so stress how much I appreciate the flexibility and the willingness to do whatever it takes to represent our constituents on behalf of everyone here. I apologize for that uncertainty. As I know most of us already know, after the Halloween weekend, COVID spikes hit across campus. And so new regulations in order to provide for the safety of the student body, as well as the faculty and those around and concerned with A&M, were put into place. And so because of that, we had to make a quick change right at the last minute there and make sure that we were doing everything we could to preserve that safety. And so with that being said, we're talking to student activities, we're talking to the Office of the VPSA, and so we're talking to a lot of people about next week and trying to gauge where we're going to be at next week. They're very optimistic about our chances of being at least somewhat in person next week for our meeting. So do keep that in the back pocket. However, I'm not going to say anything's confirmed until it's confirmed. So with that, just kind of be watching out for emails, Slack messages, as the format for next week will change. Next week will be our final meeting for this semester. And so as that is the case, any legislation that you'd like to propose before we come back in January has to be heard next week. So keep that in mind as you go about any goals that you may have here within the Senate. One of the things I also wanted to touch on was the increasing in-person experiences that we're attempting to safely roll out. I know we've had a lot of conversations within the Internal Affairs Committee about having in-person committees and things like that. I know a couple committees have met in person. And so with that, I wanted to say, you know, a big shout out to all of our chairs for making sure those experiences are things that are able to happen. I know mental health is a huge concern for people across campus, and I think being able to meet where it is safe in person is something that helps with that a whole lot. And with that being said, I want to give a big shout out to Chair Ahmed, who's planning an event for her committee outside of a committee, just to meet in a small group. I know that is taking a lot of work and effort on her part, but she's going above and beyond to make sure that y'all are able to have that in-person experience. So know that is something that we're pushing for and we're trying to protect. Also something that I want to stress as I'm on the note of mental health, as we continue this role, this position of being in the Student Senate is one that comes with stress, and that stress only adds to all of the other stress that we feel in our everyday lives, in classes, with work, with whatever else you may be involved in. So know that if at any point you need to take a step back, or if at any point you need to have somebody help you out with the project you're working on or whatever it is, please reach out to whoever you can, whether it's a chair, whether it's myself. We want to make sure that first and foremost, your mental health is taken care of. I know It's extremely important and not something to overlook. So if at any point you need that break, you need that rest, please come to us so that we can work with you and make sure that that is taken care of. Finally, I just want to again echo what I said earlier about Speaker Pro Tempore Spur. I know we're going to be having the election next week, and we'll be getting details about the process for that election. It's going to look a lot like the elections we had for chairs back at the beginning of the session. So if you're looking at doing that, if you're looking at running for that position, talk to her about the position. Find out specifics, and really dig deep and decide whether that commitment, which is a huge commitment, is the one that you'd like to take next. And if it is, then I want to wish you good luck. And if you have any questions about the way the process will work once those processes are laid out, please don't hesitate to reach out, as we're here to make sure that you're able to take the role if that's something that you'd like to do. So know that that's all there. Again, the role you'll be filling is one that is going to come with a lot of responsibility, and the person who filled that responsibility before you worked incredibly hard and tirelessly to make sure that this Senate functioned well and smoothly in such a difficult and unprecedented time. And so with that, that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Are there any questions for the presenter? Seeing none, I will give you back the chair.
Well, thank you. And with the chair back, we will move into a period of closing roll call led one final time by Speaker Pro Tempore Spur.
Howdy, Senate. Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, for the last time, we will be entering a period of closing roll call. It is 10:10 p.m. The form will be open until 10:20 p.m. Please fill that out, and once you filled it out, you are good to leave. Thank y'all for everything.